Let's get started. First of all, for those of you that are joining us, thank you. Thank you for spending a Saturday with us. I hope your other discussions and panels that you're attending are really awesome. We're going to start by doing some introductions, which you probably can already guess a little bit of how we are. Because you can see how very serious we are. Talk a little bit about career and jobs in gaming, and then have some time for Q&A. I'll start. Hi, I'm Jennifer Lane. I am the moderator today. I am a design director for Turn 10 Studios at Microsoft. I have been in gaming for 20 years, and I am also right now the co-lead for Women in Gaming at Xbox. My pronouns are she, her. A little bit about me. If you asked me, I guess I'm considered either white or white passing because it's changed since I was a kid. I'm a second generation American. And that's a little bit about me. I'm going to turn it over to Pepsi, and then she can turn it over to the next person.
Okay. Hi, my name is Pepsi Worth. Just like the soda. First name's just like the soda. It's not Dr. Pepper. It's not Coke. It's not 7-Up. It's just Pepsi. I am not native born to Seattle. I was native born to Los Angeles. My people are Mexican and Puerto Rican. I identify as a Latinx member myself and as she, her. But my skin color is definitely, I could pass for white. And especially if I change my voice, I definitely am white passing. So, but I'm super excited to be here. I am the gaming readiness lead for Xbox. I'm kind of the Paul Revere for all of gaming. I kind of go around to all the teams and I'm like, this launch is coming, this title's coming, this product's coming. Are you ready? And so that's my job. I love it. It's super exciting. I also do a lot more. Just like everybody else on this panel, we have our day jobs, and then I do a bit more. So I'm super excited to be here with you guys, and that's a little bit about me. I'm going to pass this on to Shantae, and she's going to pass it on to the next person.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon to everyone that is watching today. My name is Shantae King Ogletree. Ogletree is new, sometimes I forget. I've been married about 7 months now. Woo, woo. My story, so I'm from Ohio, so I call myself a Midwest girl with a bit of a city spirit. I grew up in a small town in Ohio, to undergrad at Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland. I started my career in finance, and then at some point I decided to switch. I went back and got an MBA and a master's in HR, and then landed in Seattle at Microsoft. So I'm currently an HR business partner in Xbox, and I support the team that has just recently launched Project Scarlet, what we now know is Xbox Series S and X. And I'm just super excited to be here. One of the things I wanted to share with you all is that I also used to be in NESB, so shout out Region 4 for those of you that know NESB. And I just want to be able to share anything I can with you all today. I am going to pass it off to Ayana.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, I guess. I'm Ayana Adegeye. I am a gameplay systems engineer on Mojang Studios, which is a part of Microsoft and the developer of Minecraft. I'm relatively new in my career. I graduated in 2019 from the University of Michigan, born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, and moved away from home all the way to the other side of the country, to Seattle. My career path wasn't really direct. So I'd like to share with you, since a lot of you are still kind of in your university phase, I'd like to kind of be the bridge in this conversation about what it's like going from university into industry. Also on the side within Mojang Studios with Christine, we've started an ERG for BIPOC just within our studio to create a safe space within our studio. Yeah, that's me. I'm going to pass it off to Charisma.
Hello. My name is Charisma Williams. I've been in gaming probably about, probably a little more than 15 years now. I'm a big gamer. It's everything I wanted to always do. And my focus was mostly on user experience, user interface, and kind of full stack. So everything from art design to engineering. And I've also had the privilege of working on platforms, including Xbox, did a little stint at Valve. So those of you who are PC gamers, worked a little bit on Steam. And now I'm actually in a whole new sort of area that's still related to gaming. And I currently work on the security team that's responsible for securing all of Xbox services, hardware, and making sure that we keep everyone safe while they're enjoying gaming. So now I'm going to pass it over to Christine.
Hello. I'm just going to mention this right now. I have allergies, so if you see me going back and forth, that's why. Yeah, my name's Christine Gutierrez. I've been a graphic designer for about 10 years. I work for Mojang Studios with Ayana. And like Ayana mentioned, we both run an ERG together called Craft is a Color within our studio for to help pave the way for BIPOC and gaming within our studio. I started gaming when I was a kid, so it started very, very young. From kindergarten, it was a way for me to cope with a lot of things in my past, and during foster care, it was a distraction for me, and it was something I was very passionate about, but never thought I could accomplish in the future to be involved in. So it was more just kind of a hobby to get me in a positive place. Now that I'm in gaming, I'm still amazed every day that I'm here, even talking to everyone here and being with these amazing group of people on this panel. I believe I said I worked for Mojang Minecraft for 4 years. I manage a team of video editors currently, 3D generalist. Wow, I'm forgetting my team, I guess. A web designer, and also additional graphic designers. And we are part of the central creative team at Minecraft. When I'm not designing or focusing on branding for companies, I am a DJ on the weekends, and I play anything from house music because I'm from Chicago, moved to Seattle 4 years ago, which is March, and Latin house. I love electro. I love my new wave goth stuff. So I try to combine those two together, or those three: design, gaming, and music is a huge passion I have. But yeah, that's about me, and hopefully didn't miss anything important with that. It's Saturday.
It's just going to be how it's going to be. Start with one of the first questions. And Pepsi, I'm going to pick on you, even though I just picked on you, because I kind of love your backstory. Some of you mentioned a little bit about how you got started in your careers, and in some cases gaming. Pepsi, I'd love to understand, how did you get your start in gaming? And for other people that chime in also, why did you choose gaming, if you've already said a little bit about how you got into gaming?
Thanks for asking, Jennifer. It is an interesting story. I'm very proud of sharing it, so thank you for asking. I also like to say that I didn't choose gaming, gaming chose me. And we'll get into that a little bit. I think to back us up, like I was born in South Central Los Angeles, right there in between Figueroa and Wilshire and Crenshaw. We kind of all meet in the middle. I didn't grow up. School wasn't very important to me. There was a lot of other things that were important to me, and I just didn't take anything seriously. So I found myself a teenage mom. And then fast forward there, I ended up having 3 children, one of them special needs. And I ended up finding myself divorced and on welfare and trying to figure out what I was going to do. And it was actually my son who was like, Mom, you should go into tech. And so I went. I had 3 years of like where I was going to be getting support. So I knew I had to do something. And so I ended up getting my degrees in networking security, and networking infrastructure, which, by the way, when I went to take those classes, every single advisor I ever met told me they were too hard. I should think about doing something else. And also, because I was a mother, I needed to, like, that's what I should be focusing on, not focusing on my career, which I thought was fascinating to me. And also, I'm grateful that they said that, because it was definitely a challenge. If you know me, you know that when I'm told no, that just doesn't, no really doesn't mean anything to me. It pretty much just means figure out how I'm going to get it done. It's like, and I've always been that way. No is not has never been a negative word for me. It just means that you said no, doesn't mean that I can't do it. So I found a way to do it, and in 3 years, I completed 3 degrees. It was hard. I don't recommend that to anybody, but like I said, I was a mother on welfare, and I had to get started in my career. I had to jumpstart that, and that was how I did that. Once I got into that field, I was met with a lot of toxicity. I was a networking admin for a small company, and the head guy was such, like, I don't have good words for this person. It was such a toxic environment. I woke up every day. I had really bad skin problems at the time because it was just such a toxic place. But as many of you guys know, as a mother, even, and as a person of color, like, I wasn't able to just quit my job just because it was toxic. I had to be there, and it was really hard. And I was so grateful when they laid me off. I was like, thank you for laying me off. Now I can go do something else. So I decided to go again, pursue a networking role somewhere, and got another role. But once again, I was hired by a female, and she was very excited for me to be in that role. And then she got let go, and a male took over. And he really did not like working with women in this field. So once again, I just found myself wondering if I should even stay in technology. Why was I putting myself through this all the time? I used to be a former Disney cast member. I used to do makeup for a living. Maybe I should go back to doing that kind of stuff, because this was really hard. And even though hard isn't something I'm used to hard, but this is a different kind of hard. This hits you, in every single insecurity you have gets played on. And I just, for my kids, so we struggled. Anyway, my son, my oldest son, I had him when I was very young, so he still continues to play such a huge part of my life. But he came to me and he's like, Mom, you should stick with it. I think this is going to be really good for you. And I got a phone call from a recruiter, and that recruiter said, hey, we'd like to hire you for the Xbox Operations Center. And I hung up on them because I didn't believe that a recruiter would call and ask me to work for Xbox. Like, that's just, it just didn't make any sense to me. So I hung up on them. My friend who actually recommended me called me back and said, can you please just pick up your phone? Don't hang up. So I listened. I got hired as a contractor at first for the Xbox Operations Center. And when I got there, again, I felt this whole overwhelming feeling of, do I really belong here? Like, what am I doing here? And then something happened that was really important. I was working a night shift. I worked from 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. And the Xbox Operations Center is a box inside of a box. We're just very isolated. And there was all these guys, and we were talking. I was the only woman in the room. And we started having these really great conversations about just life as well as working, and how much gaining that respect, learning that respect, and then also just forming this family. And I realized that I was the Wendy to these lost boys. And not only should I be there, but I belong there. So that's why I say that gaming chose me, because I was only prepared to stay there for a year. I only gave myself a year. I ended up being, obviously now this is going into my 8th year at Xbox. I eventually got hired as a full-time employee. and have gotten have been very successful here in my own way. So my very long journey from the hood to Microsoft has been extraordinary, has been life changing, and because not only did it change my life, but it changed my children's life. They will never have to worry about anything. They won't ever, they're not going to have to be on welfare. They won't have to worry about college. They will always be taken care of, and that was the biggest thing for me. But it was also this hood girl who you couldn't have told South Central Los Angeles Pepsi at 16 that she was going to be here. She probably would have hit you or tried to hurt you in some way. But but this Pepsi, not only do I know I belong here, but they need me here. So I love it. I love what I do. I love sharing my story. I'm very proud of it. And thanks for this opportunity. And am I sending this to somebody else, Jennifer? You're muted, hun.
Thank you very much for for sharing your story. Charisma, I would love to hear from you. You've said you've been around for about 15 years now. Did you do anything before gaming, and how did you kind of get into that?
So I'll say that for me, my story is a little interesting because my dad actually worked for IBM back in the day, and I didn't care what he did. I think now it's like kind of more hip for kids, like actually want to go to work with their parents and stuff, and I didn't really care. I just wanted him to bring me stuff home. But one thing he did bring home is computers, and at a time when a lot of people didn't have personal computers in their home, which allowed me to sort of like teach myself like programming and interactive design. But the big thing he brought home was NES. He brought home an NES one day. He claimed it was for himself. To this day, I've never seen him play it. And the moment I played NES, I was just sort of like in love with it. Just like this combination of an artistry and technical things mixed together in such an engaging format was just really interesting to me. I was always interested in interactive design, which at the time no one really knew what that was. So when I would tell teachers like, I want to do interactive design, they just thought I was like really weird. Uh, and gaming was sort of like the ultimate interactive design when you think about it. So from that point on, pretty much, I went to college, double majored in multimedia, which was sort of interactive design at that time, and traditional graphic design. And every project I just made about gaming. If we were doing a restaurant menu design, my restaurant was based on like Jet Set Radio Future, and I had this whole design how there was like a skate park in the middle, and so my menu was all cool and matched the branding. So for a long time, game development was sort of in a black box, and it wasn't really clear how people made games. So I thought my path was more on the marketing sort of track, using a lot of my design skills to do branding and things like that. So I did a little bit of that, but I really wanted to like do more around like the menus and interface in gaming, but no one really knew what that was. I ended up actually meeting someone on a design forum after college. Yay Hooray! Other designers out there probably know about that board. It's pretty big back in the day. I haven't been on it in a while, but met a guy who worked at High Voltage Software, which actually they're still in business today. About 20 plus years in business, independent developer. And he saw my passion, and he actually, forwarded my info, and I got to actually join the mocap studio as a web designer. But what I found out was in gaming, you can be brought on as one thing, and then you start doing other stuff. So I actually started to get into motion capture work. I had an opportunity to work with Alex Seropian, who had actually just come back to Chicago from Bungie. So I got an opportunity to work on Stubbs the Zombie, which actually just got re-released, which is pretty awesome. And got an opportunity to work on a game that no one really knew what it was going to be. We actually would hire people who worked in haunted houses to like play these roles of monsters. And it turned out this game, I mean, they just had one animator, and it was called BioShock. So no one really knew it was going to turn out as big as it did. But I really, really wanted to work in the interface, and that was sort of across the lawn at the core development studio. So eventually sort of worked my way over there and realized that I really loved it. Everything about interface I loved. And I was able to use like my technical skills, my creative skills, organization skills to build out these awesome interfaces that have such tight constraints around them. I think a lot of people don't realize that, like with interface, the reason, especially back in the day, you didn't see stuff as exciting is that we really had to fit into a really small memory footprint. So you're trying to be super creative while like making sure the game is going to still be able to run and that we can still add features, but also making the UI very interesting and engaging at the same time. So that's sort of like how I got my start. And from then on, it's just been nothing but gaming. I took some breaks and did some VR, some HoloLens stuff, but no matter what I'm doing, I'm always sort of bringing that sort of gaming background and engagement background. So that's sort of my story. And one thing that's great about gaming that I always want people to know is that you can take your career in any direction you want. Like I said, right now I'm on the security team. Not really something you think about that's tied to gaming, but it's like super important. And there's so much to learn. So like you'll never get bored in gaming. You can do so many different things in gaming. And it's one of the few careers that people are kind of open to you sort of making those shifts. You know, there's a lot of people who are producers who come from test backgrounds, a lot of people who are artists who eventually move into production backgrounds. And so you can kind of shift around. And for me, I get bored easily. So that's one of the reasons I've really loved working in gaming is there's always a problem to solve and there's always ways for you to grow.
Ayana, you are relatively new to the industry, coming out of college for a few years, and I believe you said you were a gamer. What made you want to go into it more than just like I love games and make it a career? And why did you choose being an engineer?
Okay, so to start, I did play, like I was kind of a tomboy when I was a little girl. Played a lot of video games with my brother. Lots of Lego sets, train sets, Lincoln Logs, all kinds of things that were very logical. Like they use the logical side of your brain. And then when I hit 15 and I was like halfway through high school, and it was about the time that people were starting to like, okay, what do I want to go to college for, right? And I remember I got in a huge fight with my parents because like I wanted to build a computer, which is like the very expensive, very dangerous version of Legos. And I was just fascinated with this idea because I had been playing, ironically, Minecraft a lot. And within that community, the modding community, there was a lot of people like, oh yeah, if you build your own computer, you can like have the specs to do XYZ. And I was really interested in that kind of stuff. But like, my mom was like, that's way too expensive. Like even things that come out of like, like development centers, like where they like build these machines and send them out, they still have all kinds of glitches. What's the guarantee that you, an unexperienced 15-year-old, is going to like figure out how to do this correctly? But because I'm a daddy's girl, I just appealed to my dad and I saved up some money like I had from like a little summer job I had and used that to put it together after the fact. My mom was kind of like amazed. She was like, wow, how did you actually figure out how to do this? And from there, I was kind of like, hey, I really like this tech stuff. Like it kind of appeals to that logical side of my brain. Up until like that point, I thought I was going to be an architect. I can't draw, so I don't know how that was ever going to work out. But from there, I was like, okay, I think I'm going to declare my major in computer science. This also was a point of contention within my family because no one else in my family is an engineer. Both my mom and my dad tried to be engineers and ended up taking different paths. So they were discouraging in a sense that it was just like, I don't want you to get hurt. Like, I don't want you to go into this field and then feel like you can't do it. And then like, parents coddling, stuff like that. But I did it anyway, because I can't take no for an answer. So then I went to University of Michigan, got my degree in CS and getting into gaming. So I started off with an internship at Microsoft. And also the dude who I was talking to was a graduate from my university who was also in Xbox. And he's still at Xbox to this day. And he saw my resume as a freshman and was like, you're probably not going to get in. And I took that as, okay, so now I definitely have to go get in then. So I met up with the recruiter from my university at that school at the time, and I was like, hey, hear me out. Y'all have this program that's for freshmen and sophomores. I've built a computer. I've dabbled around in programming. I know I'm a freshman, and I know I've only started my programming courses, but by the time like this 2 semesters are over, I'll have 2 classes of programming experience. I think that should be good enough. And then I accidentally cut the line at the career fair and just started talking to her because I was like, oh, I didn't know there was a line. But it worked out in that sense. And that's how I ended up at Microsoft. Gaming in particular, I started off in Office, and I found, like, again, before I got into tech, I was more on the creative side, like logic creative. I did a lot of drawing, dancing, singing, stuff like that, on top of like, putting things together. And Office was okay, but it didn't scratch that kind of creative itch I had. So then I was like, what's the marrying of like creativeness and tech? Gaming, duh. And then I was like, oh yeah, also Microsoft recently, I think when I started interning, like Microsoft had acquired Minecraft maybe 2 years before, and the team was still like really small and still kind of up and coming. So I messaged one of the tech leads over there, who's now the CTO, and I messaged him. I was like, hey, can I come work on your team? And he told me no. So like first internship, me was kind of like super discouraged about that. So then next year came around, I was like, okay, I was still in Office. I was like, okay, I'm still super bored with this. I'm going to try again. So I went back to him, and again, he told me no, but I was like, okay, but how about this? How about I do like a trial by fire, right? How about you just give me a chance to just prove myself? And at Microsoft, we have like every summer, there's like a big company-wide like hackathon called 1 week. And for 1 week, they were doing a project that was not directly related to the game, but like, it still had something to do with Minecraft. And I was like, just let me come over there and I can prove to you that I'll be a great employee, even if I don't have a gaming background, even if I just come from general engineering. And the rest was history from there. In my team and kind of in gaming still currently, there's like this niche of like, you have to be like this hardcore, I came from game development school to kind of get into the gaming space. And that's changing, but that's only changing very, very recently. Nowadays on my team, a lot of the people who don't come from a gaming background are new hires like me, who like just recently graduated from college. But a lot of the like older people in our industry are like people who graduated from game dev school and have been bouncing around from AAA title to AAA title. But I'm glad that that's slowly changing, and that's where I am. And that's my goal, is to also change that kind of like, or inspire people to kind of change that. Don't take no for an answer and be like, yeah, you're in general engineering, but you still have like the tech knowledge to do what other people who got game design or game development degrees can do as well.
And remember to cut in line when you're talking to the person at Microsoft.
Okay, maybe don't do that. Maybe don't do that.
Let's switch it around a bit. I'm going to start with Christine and then go to Shantae about what type of careers are out there. Christine, you do a lot of different things, including, I don't know if DJing comes into your typical work, but can you describe a little bit about careers that are out there in gaming and how they relate?
I love talking about this topic because sometimes when people think of gaming, they think of be a developer or that you have to be a creative. Now, I'm a creative. I come from a graphic design background, but that has evolved since. Similar to Charisma, UI, UX within like web, but you're doing more interface, right? But who knows if that ever happens to me too. But 3D, I've experienced 3D, all over the place, basically, in my current career. So I have a lot of hats. So that's why I'm a design lead now. But with that being said, there's always that you have to be a programmer, you have to be a gamer. And I honestly don't agree with that. We have so many different people working with us. You can be in business, you can be in marketing, you could be a game tester. There's like so many opportunities, brand ambassadors. I can keep going. Consumer products, like how do you manage that? Licensees. There's like so many opportunities within gaming that I feel doesn't get covered a lot. And it's so important because when I have, when I talk at schools or when young people come to me, or it doesn't even really matter the age, anybody who's interested in that field, they're like, how did you get there? Oh, you must be a gamer. That's true. But at the same time, there's so many people that I work with that don't come from a gaming background like Ayana was talking about. But there are people who go to gaming school. So, you know, when it comes to hiring, I really try to look at diverse portfolios, just diverse and in general with the body of work, because, you know, I've had experience of hiring video editors that had no Minecraft experience, and they're one of like the top video editors that we have. And they were able to go in the game and just kill it. And I'm like, heck yeah, this is what I'm talking about. They were passionate going through. They were curious coming into this like field. And I think the curiosity part is like what's super key. And then how do we spread that information? Programming is awesome. Being creative is awesome, but it also kicks ass. Oh, as I should probably curse, right? Woo, deep.
We'll all do it by the end.
I'm so sorry. I'm like, it's Saturday mode, so super apologies.
It's all good. It's all good. I'm going to have Shantae kind of take it from there. Being in HR, she sees this like traditionally. What are some of the careers that you see, especially at the hot careers or people coming out of college where people tend to go?
Well, I want to start by saying I am not a self-proclaimed gamer. I am a gamer of sorts. I love board games, and Microsoft gets most of their digital engagement from me from solitaire. So I do own an Xbox. I even still have a 360. But I'm not a gamer by heart. Do I consider myself creative? Yes. But if you looked at my resume, you would never know that. Like, I have almost 8 years of experience in finance, and then now going on 6-ish years of HR. And so people wouldn't assume that I'm creative. But I my life doing creative problem solving competitions when I was like 7 years old. And so creativity comes in so many different flavors. As far as careers in gaming, like at Microsoft, we are a full business unit. So we clearly have very technical and creative people like the women that you see here today. But we also have business development professionals. We have a bunch of HR people. We have a ton of finance people. We need everyone. So like, just like the diaspora of what you see here, we need that in disciplines as well. And so one of the things that I think a lot of people don't talk about as much is program management, product management. PM is PM is PM. It's a different flavor depending on which company you go into. But learning how to manage a project or a program is a skill set for life. I mean, again, as the newlywed in the group, I am program managing all kinds of stuff in my house every day. But I take that to work too in my day job because there's a lot to manage. And so when you're thinking about, hey, I really love gaming, but I don't call myself a creative, or I don't call myself a gamer. I'm kind of a math nerd. We need you to. We need you to. We need to figure out how do we make money doing this stuff that we love, making games and playing games. And so we need folks that are interested in gaming because they want to be there, but we want you to bring all of your creative juices, all of your not so creative, but very practical, how do we get stuff done, disciplines and talents. Like, we need all of that. And so it's really fun for me being in HR and gaming because I do get to see the just crazy amount of talent that is not just in this company, but in our little world of Xbox too. So it's pretty awesome.
All right, don't turn your microphone off because I'm going to start with you for the next one. Okay. We have about 25 minutes left. I'm going to give everybody 2 minutes because I'd love for everyone to chime in on this. I'm going to start with Shantae about what are the difficulties and also the opportunities of being someone who's BIPOC and a woman in gaming, and what kind of support is available. And so we'll give you each 2 minutes, and then you can continue. We're all talking in the chat, so everyone who's listening in also like look at chat. Let's start with Shantae about that.
I would say being a person of color and being a female person of color isn't a ton different in gaming than anywhere else in corporate. That's my personal opinion. But I actually think gaming, especially now in 2021, is a really good place for folks like us to land, because as a consumer facing company, we truly do, we have to, but are learning to do much better at walking the talk of making our employee base look like our potential consumer base. And so when I think about challenges that I've had, I totally still am the only something in the room sometimes, but not nearly as often as I used to be. It's especially in Xbox. There's actually not as many times that I am the only. Now, what's different for me is being someone that's so new to gaming and not having a technical background, but being someone that's looked upon to help the business make decisions. And so you really do just you have to build the courage and the confidence in whatever space that you have chosen to figure out how to produce something for someone or for the team, how to help someone get to yes, or how to help this project or program get over a hump. And so that's what I have tended to build on. The other thing for me is that I'm a bit of a natural networker, not in the kind of like sleazy way that some people think of networking, but truly, hey, Ayana, like, I've actually not seen you before. Tell me more about your story. And in doing that, I tend to be able to bring other people's guards down so we can just have a conversation about what is going on, and less about, oh, well, you don't understand my perspective because we don't look alike or we have not been from the same background, et cetera. So that's kind of how I've tended to manage that issue. But it's no different than being kind of brand new in corporate America. There's always going to be some sort of a learning curve and figuring out how to find your niche.
Thank you. Let's go to Charisma.
I think for me, like I grew up, my mom passed away when I was 12, so I kind of grew up in a household. My brother, my dad, a lot of my close friends just happened to be guys because of things I was interested in. Grew up playing basketball, so for me, like a lot of times in the neighborhood, especially in Chicago, I would go, play basketball, and my friends would bring me and it'd be like, oh, there's a girl. So, immediately they kind of think, oh, you can't really ball, with us. And, like 40 points later, it was a good time. So I don't know. I think I kind of like thrive underneath that sort of like people kind of underestimating you, not knowing what to expect. And then sort of like, you get that respect pretty quickly. And gaming, especially I think on the development front, it can be challenging. I think there's a lot more diversity that sort of happens around the business. I know our security team, for instance, is far more diverse than most development teams I've been on. And when I took a step outside of gaming for a little while and worked on kind of Windows Phone stuff, I was like amazed at how many technical women were working on Windows Phone. And I like had never seen any real technical women in gaming in like the development trenches most of my career. What makes it a little bit difficult is that you almost have to sort of like earn your stripes, where a lot of like guys who are in development, it's sort of they kind of get like the assumption that they kind of know what they're doing even when they don't necessarily know what they're doing, and that can be a little bit stressful. I know when I was at Forza, I made sure that, the head of Forza knew that, hey, you know what, I'm pretty sure I'm the only woman who checked in native code in probably like 8 or 9 years since you guys been around. But one of the things yeah, exactly. Like for me, when I was there, it was the first time I saw there were actually women being brought in as interns, into this space, right? And then our UI team was probably one of the most diverse teams I've worked with. We had people from all sorts of different backgrounds. There was another woman on the team as well. And like we were sort of able to do everything just as well as any other team. But there is sort of sometimes that hill that you kind of feel like you have to get over. But once you sort of get over that hill and you kind of prove yourself, I know for me, I was terrified at Forza when they would leave the build open for me. It was sort of like, oh, you got it. The build's open for you. Go ahead. And I'd be like, no, I would rather you not leave the build open for me. I would like to go through all the checks everyone else is going through. But like, yeah, sometimes that can be a little bit of a struggle. What I've noticed that like now, later in my career, is that companies do have a lot more support groups, that you can at least meet other people who maybe come from similar backgrounds as yourself. And teams are a lot more integrated. There's definitely some growth there that we still have to focus on, especially I think at the senior levels. It can be really kind of difficult to see that. But when I joined this security team I'm on now, there were 2 women who were leading software engineering teams. For me, that was something I really had never experienced. And so I think that we're going to continue seeing more of that. And that sort of integration into like culture is going to be a lot easier for everyone moving forward.
Thank you. Let's go to Ayana.
So for me, because I was kind of a tomboy, like I guess there wasn't as much of like a shock when I got to the office and like everyone is like 30 plus years old and like 9 times out of 10 a white dude. And it was like, like it was something I just kind of quickly got used to. Like, I guess going into it, I was like, okay, I know I'm going into the tech space. I know a lot of people I've been interacting in the tech space have been like this. So it wasn't that much of a shock, but it was still kind of disheartening, right? It's like, especially when I first moved out here, because I was like, okay, I'm like 2,000 miles away from my mom. And like, I don't really have people out here to connect with. But as time kind of goes on, like kind of like what Charisma was talking about, like things have become a lot more diverse. A lot of the people, or as I was saying earlier, a lot of the new hires are like women, like within my team. So like now we're seeing a lot more female developers. But in the beginning, it was just me, and we had one senior engineer on the team who was also a woman. And I was like just kind of looking up to her for everything, because I was like, oh my God, you're like a dream right now. From there, like there's also like a big punch of imposter syndrome that you'll get, that like everyone I feel like has to kind of get over. That feeling of like, they don't look like me. Do I really belong here? And then also like there's also the feeling of like having to prove your worth when you got there. There's not really worth to prove. Like you're there already. But that feeling does linger, or like having to like over explain, like, oh, I know this because I went da 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 da. Well, like, kind of also with like Charisma and Shantae were saying, where it's just like, oh, dudes can kind of just show up and be like, I've said this thing and everyone believes them. Whereas like I kind of felt like I had to explain myself. Now, as I get a little bit more comfortable in my role, I've been trying to be confident, and trying to just, I belong here, so I should be able to perform at the same level as my peers and still be okay. But it took a long time for me to get there, and kind of being surrounded by like other women and other people who look like me for me to feel like that.
It gets easier when you get older as well.
Yeah, that's true.
And you learn to have a voice a little bit more. I'm going to stop you there only because I want to get to Pepsi and Christine, and we have some questions coming in. So let's go with Christine.
Keep it fast. But yeah, so first of all, I want to go into like the colorism stuff really quickly. Just saying like, I am Latinx, but I also recognize that I do have a privilege with the skin that I have, being lighter, coming from a family that is very diverse. We have Afro-Latino, we have like, the whole gradient, right? And I've I've seen how people have been treated within my family and within my community. So just want to throw that out there. But I have dealt with biases from the second I walked into tech. Already assumptions that I couldn't do the job, which made me really quiet for a very long time. Every time I've ever, had the courage to speak about something, at past jobs, I wouldn't say this job currently that I'm at right now, I was told I was too sassy for having an opinion, that Latinas are sassy. And this is towards my individual experience. I'm sure others have in different cultures, but it made me scared to talk. And now I kind of have like an issue of apologizing every time, which I'm trying to work on. I went into working at Minecraft, and we're still working out things. Gaming can be pretty male dominant, especially in the creative role. So, hence why Ayana and I got connected, started this ERG, which has been super supported by our studio. But yeah, I mean, just names, being made fun of for a long time because of my facial features, things. Just it's a lot of biases. I'm still dealing with biases. Just a couple years ago, I actually feel like I have a voice. I broke that barrier, and I feel I just went for it. It's hard for me to usually come out right away, but even if my sentences don't make sense, I always feel good that I just came out with what I truly feel. It's really hard. But I want to say that I made progress by actually saying I have a voice, I have something to say, and to like what Pepsi talked about earlier, I belong here. And instead of questioning myself every time, actually giving my opinion, because the males around me seem to be very opinionated and people look up to them. I want to be that same person. I want to be that human that people look up to, and I want to have a voice. Even it might not come out perfect every time. So these are to the people who are, scared to, come forward or confident at the moment. Like, you'll find your voice, and it'll guide you where you need to go. And I feel I'm in this position where I'm at. I'm in these situations because, I took that leap. I went up that hill like Charisma was talking about. So
thank you. Let's get to Pepsi, and then we're going to have a question.
Yeah, thanks for asking a question. So I think I kind of lost the question a little bit, but I'll try to get. Been so intense listening to everybody. I think we're in a really exciting time right now, right? Like, we're in a time where our voices, at least, I definitely am a little bit older than a lot of our panelists, and so I've watched kind of some things that have transpired throughout. So I consider this a really important time, and also an exciting time for us people, all of us people of color. However, it is very I think the other theme that I'm hearing from everybody too is that this isn't easy. We still have a lot of ceilings to bust open. We still have a lot of doors to knock down. And so it's not, it's not easy. I think what I take to heart, though, is all of you guys. It is listening to everybody here and all the work we are doing to break the ceilings, to break down the doors. I take it as a duty, honestly, that when we get new hires in, I immediately reach out to them. I immediately get a one-on-one, especially if they're a woman and a person of color, or a person of color, or both. I immediately reach out. I immediately start a dialogue, make sure they're being taken care of, make sure that that they've got these certain things, like, do you have a one-on-one with your manager every week, every month, every stuff like that, like, how are you doing with your connect? So just helping them, because it is a duty of mine. It's also a duty of mine to go back out into my community. So I do work, most of the work that I do outside of Microsoft for charity is for inner city youth. I spend a lot of time in our inner city high schools doing panels, going and talking to CS classrooms, because it is important to show them that if I can get there, that anybody can get here. A lot of them sit in their room, I'm especially talking to the girl who's sitting like this, thinking that nobody cares about anything she has to say, because I remember being that person. I think being a mother of all boys, growing up the way that I did, watching firsthand the police brutality in my neighborhood growing up, being the light, having the privilege of being so light compared to my friends, um, and growing up in a predominantly African American community gave me this perspective that makes me a fierce ally for that community. It's my heart, and also for my community. Like, for a long time, because I'm so light, I didn't fit in my community. I didn't fit anywhere. So I'm used to not fitting in, and I use all of those things as fuel and as an opportunity to educate. And it also helps me be a fierce ally.
Thank
And so I'm grateful for it. Yeah. So thanks for the
you.
opportunity.
Our first question is from Destiny, and there's been a lot of information in chat. And so what I'm going to do for people that aren't watching chat, just repeat that here, because we have several other questions too. And I think the information in chat has been fantastic. The question is, any advice on how to prove ourselves and show that we are passionate for a job that we may not seem qualified for, especially now with everything being online and it being difficult to land an interview and lots of rejections. That's a short form of it. And the responses from Shantae, Charisma, and some others is get on LinkedIn and Facebook, anywhere that you know where people are gathering. Ask for informational meetings, ask for some time to help understand. That is a phenomenal thing. Figure out how you may need to rebrand yourself, pro bono, and volunteer. Extra time to give away while you're building skills. I'm looking, and Charisma notes that also in early in career, before LinkedIn, she used to reach out. She reached out to a concept artist at Blizzard who was nice enough to have a phone call. I did something similar. And Shantae says many companies won't give formal feedback after an interview. So find some folks to do mock interviews with and get really buddy with your career services or your school. I'm also going to add, like, look for us on LinkedIn and ping us. I'm happy to have a one-on-one with people. It may take some time to get that meeting, but do it. Going to take the next question, which
Can
is
I
from
add that real quick, Jen?
Yes, absolutely. Just chime in.
Because I think it's going to answer one of the later questions, which might not be your next question. But industry groups like this, industry groups that are in gaming or in engineering specifically, like those, if you are nervous to reach out directly to a person on LinkedIn or Facebook or Medium or whatever, go find the groups that they might be connected to with those groups, because that's almost the safest place to say, hey, I'm interested, but I really don't know where to start. So I just wanted to add that.
That's great. And anyone can jump in when we're doing these, our panelists for the questions. The next question is, and I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, Danan. The question is, thank you so much, ladies, for everything you've said so far. My question is, what would you say your strongest asset characteristics that has allowed you to rise to this level of success as a woman in the industry? And rather than me pointing to someone, anyone that wants to answer that, just jump in.
I'd be happy to go.
Do it.
I think the skills that I have are the skills that I brought with me from how I grew up. I often say, because I definitely my brand is definitely fearless in this company. People, the ones that know me, at least, fearless is a word that comes up. The reason why that is what do I have to be afraid of? The worst thing that somebody can say is no, and no doesn't mean anything anyway to me. The other thing too is that what do I know a lot of people are like, oh, I do get to have a lot of meetings with our VPs, and people get very nervous and they often ask me for advice about that. The reason why I don't is I don't have anything to be scared of. Like, the worst people in the world lived in my neighborhood, and I survived. So I don't have a lot to be afraid of. And I bring that with me. It took a minute to get past the imposter syndrome that came with that. I think that was one of the things that I really appreciated one of us sharing, is that imposter syndrome. That definitely showed up. Definitely also shows up all the time. This is not something like, I'm not the best at this, but I keep reminding myself all the time of how important my voice and how important my skills and how important I am to this business. And while it took a long time to get here, those are the skills that I definitely bring and hope to pass on to future leaders here at Microsoft as well.
Just left. Shantae's gonna pop in on this.
Pepsi is right. Like, she's fearless. I would say, so for those of you that may have seen my LinkedIn, my motto is lead with courage, conviction, and class. And so I know that I have the courage, but I actually recently realized that for me, there's a bit of a difference between courage and self-esteem. And so a lot of people might think that I have like pretty high self-esteem, and that's actually not true. And so I wanted to be a little vulnerable and share, because I've been wrestling with it and realize that while I get courageous, and that helps me kind of minimize the fear and the self-esteem pieces that I've been going through. And so for me, a lot of it is leaning on my courage to ask the questions that people won't ask, but I know everybody wants to ask. My courage to think outside of the box and with solving problems. And so when people think this is the way we've always done it, or even if they don't want to say this is the way we've always done it, but they can't unlock, I say, well, have we thought about this, this, and this? These 5 things are going to sound crazy, but have we considered it? And so I tend to be that person in the room. I just get really bold in saying, hey, like, let's just throw some things out there and see if we could figure out how to make it work. And so if you're sitting there struggling with rejection, if you're struggling with people saying no, figure out what is behind that no, and then try to go address that. And that's what's kind of helped me to succeed up to now.
Thank you. We have a question from Ebony. From an education perspective, what is something students, especially female students, can do to educate one another on the different career opportunities the gaming industry offers that are not presented in schools today? And anyone can answer that. We have 2 minutes left.
Okay, I'm gonna be real quick. One, just look on the internet. Like, so, the group behind like this event, BCGA, like they're a good group to connect with. Nesby, like Shantae was talking about, like just there's so many groups out there, especially online. And 2, like I know, and I'm not trying to be like sexist or anything like that, but like amongst women, we do have a tendency to be kind of catty and like fight amongst each other, and that just kind of comes from like the history with patriarchy and everything like that. But lifting each other up is the best thing we can do. We are so strong when we come together. And like that, like when we bring everyone together, I feel like that is the best way to like encourage other women, even if it's like not amongst education, just like, oh, I found this cool thing, I'm gonna put it on my LinkedIn. So now everyone who comes by can just see it, even if I don't know them personally. That's kind of like my way of doing it.
Thank you. I want to, Sophia, I know part of her question was answered earlier, but I want to get to it our last minute. Thank you for all for sharing. As someone who's not in university right now, but coming from a different industry, I came from a different industry. I can't apply to internships and keep getting rejected. How do I stand out to recruiters?
Because I work with recruiters all the time, and I've just hired during the pandemic about like 6-7 people, still hiring right now for our team, which is pretty awesome. But yeah, to stand out, honestly, like if it's a creative role, I will speak on that because that's what I hire for. Portfolio is key. Having diverse work is definitely key. Like if you have a passion for one thing, try to get outside the box just a little bit, be a little flexible. An example really quick is like if you were, you know, going in for a graphic design role, you know, having bodies of work for marketing, having like, you know, like having, even if you don't have that experience, what I've learned from my portfolio is basically going in and doing side projects on my own, like having these goals, looking at websites and I'm like, that is not cute. Or looking at interfaces and games, just be like, no, this needs to change. But then creating a personal project for myself, and I add that on a portfolio. And I can't tell you how many times people have complimented that. When I see that when I'm hiring, I see people going the extra mile to really grow in their, you know, in their skill set. And that's what I look for. I look for diverse portfolios, and I look for people thinking outside, especially their personal work.
Thank you. And I wish we could go on for another 2 hours. We're over time. Thank you for our attendees. Thank you for our amazing panelists. This is probably the best Saturday I've spent in a while. Have a great rest of your summit this weekend, and reach out to us if you want to know more. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Have a great
Bye-bye.
weekend. Bye.
See you all.
She's coming.
Good day, everyone. Before you leave, I just wanted to say thank you so much. I am Keisha Walker. I'm the founder and chairwoman of the Black Collegiate Gaming Association. Oh my gosh, you ladies!
Yay!
You are so
You're our hero. What are you talking about? You're our hero, Keisha. You're our hero.
I heard you
You're
can
our
get
hero.
us some video. I hope you get us some video of this.
Oh my God, yes, we're recording this and we're going to play it back on our
Good,
YouTube page. We're also going to share
Thank
it with
you.
our 15 member schools. Jen,
Yeah. That's awesome.
every email, text message, phone call, you so rock. You are my superwoman. I so love and appreciate you. Chris,
You are my hero.
I've been following you for like, I've been video gaming for 35 years, and I've been following you like since you started at Xbox. So when they told me you were able to be in this panel, I was like, oh my God. But Christine, Ayana, oh my gosh, Shanta, Pepsi, you guys have been amazing. Amazing. And we also shared your panel today in our BCA Discord group. There's like over 70 women that was in there also listening. And they were talking and engaging back and forth, and they are. I mean, I'm just amazed. I am just done. So thank you so much. Today has been phenomenal, and the fact that you this on a Saturday for us, I appreciate you. And for you to be a part of our history during Women's History Month and making history with us, Women Got Game, and this event, and the fact that you're women of color is just icing on the cake. So thank you. So I appreciate you, and I will be getting you guys recaps next week, and thank you emails as well. All right, love you guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Keisha, see you all. Have a good weekend.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a great weekend.